Everybody, welcome back to another episode of SD Student Loan Speaks. My name is Destre Capers. I'm the Director of Marketing and Outreach, and we are back with another dynamic episode. So today I have an old friend of mine, Dawayne Nettles from USC Upward Bound program. Dawayne, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So let's start off with maybe just how we know each other, because we go back
Way back.
a couple of years, right?
Yeah.
Maybe a decade.
It ain't a decade. It's not. Well, close to a decade.
Because we were young babes when we started.
Yeah, youngish.
Okay. So we started knowing each other way back when I worked for a different employer, but still kind of working in the same realm of helping students obtain access to college.
Right.
Awesome. So you are with USC Trio Upward Bound.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me a little bit about Trio before we dig into your program.
Awesome. So TRIO is a federally funded program. Our target areas are first generation low-income students. Our big goal is college access. So we have a number of programs, some being outreach, some being at the campus level. My program, Upward Bound, but we also have an educational talent search, which is an outreach pre-college program. We also have SSS. It's branded different places at the University of South Carolina. It's branded as OSP. That's our college program for students who are in college, who just need a little more assistance, who are identified as first generation low income. They have individual tutoring, individual advisors to kind of help them with the college going process, being that they're first generation. And we also have Ronald E. McNair Scholars Program at the University of South Carolina, where we have students who are first generation low income, but who are pursuing a PhD. So we have all levels, and there's also an EOC program that's known federally, and it services adult learners. So TRIO kind of early as middle school, as late as adult. But the goal is college access, first generation low income, pretty much providing that additional reach to help the students.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So because you all as Trio cover so many different populations, do people have to pay to be a part of these programs?
Great question. So there's no payment for a TRIO program. So we're all federally funded. All of our money comes directly from the Fed. We all are grant programs. So we write our grants, write objectives, and all those monies comes to the feds, and we pour those monies back into our staff, faculty, and pretty much to service our students. So there's no payment. A lot of our programs sound too good to be true, but there's no hidden barriers. We just want students to have more access.
Yeah. So knowing that you all focus on low income, first generational students, what if there's a student that still needs that support because their family just isn't capable of providing that support or they need that extra push? Can they also participate in TRIO programs?
Yes. So all of our grants are different. Most of our grants all do require 2/3 of our population to be first generation low income. Educational talent search specifically does their 1/3. They do have an area where they can serve as a student who's just in need. So they may not be first generation, they may not be low income. They may just need assistance in financial aid, financial literacy. They may need the information. So there is a population where they're able to service students in that regard. So there is some wiggle room, depending on the grants and how the legs and regs are written, just how to service some other students.
Awesome. So that was like a really big overview of TRIO. Yes. TRIO is not only found in South Carolina, it is nationwide opportunities. So just in case somebody's watching and they're not in South Carolina, look up your local TRIO programs to figure out what's close to you all and who is servicing your populations in your area. So let's hop into Upward Bound, because I remember Upward Bound when I was in high school. My sister was in Upward Bound. That's why I didn't make it to Upward Bound. But she was in Upward Bound, and she got to do some really cool things throughout the year and over the summer. So tell us about your program.
Yes, so Upward Bound, again, we're a federally funded program. We service high school students. USC Upward Bound specifically, we focus on 4 target schools: Columbia High, Lower Richland, W.J. Keenan, Eau Claire High School. But Upward Bound in a nutshell, we're college access. We service students both during the academic year and during the summer. That's one misconception too. A lot of people know Upward Bound for our summer programs. They think we're a summer camp, but we have really much 12-month programming and intense wraparound services. So the strength of our program is meeting our students, again, they're first generation low income, but high intensity, high practice, high touch points to get the students the services they need. So during the academic year, we do a Saturday Academy where our students meet. They come out on Saturdays. We focus on academic enrichment, covering their English, math areas, pretty much any class they may need assistance with. We provide free tutoring for all those students. But then our big focus points are our enrichment. So college admissions, financial aid, financial literacy. That's where we kind of cover those pieces. What is a FAFSA, college choice, and really your options. So even though we're housed at the University of South Carolina, we're housed at the University of South Carolina, we're not necessarily recruiters for the University of South Carolina. So 3 things I look for from my students: is your school accredited? Does it have your major? And the biggest thing for my students is, can we afford this?
Can we afford
So looking at plans for our students, long term, what does it look like? Are you comfortable? So asking those fine-tuned questions a first-generation student may not necessarily know when they're thinking about the college going process. So those are our biggest things. So we do our college admissions pieces on Saturdays. Another big component of what we're bound during the academic year, our college tours, taking our students on the road, getting them to see where they want to go.
Right.
For me, I'm not comfortable sending any student off to a college that I have access to for the first time when they're leaving my care. So I want them to see the campus, talk to professors, talk to some students, and can they really see themselves on this campus long term after they leave us. But then our summer component, which most people know is for, we do 6-week residential programs where our students get to live on a college campus, live in a dorm, have a roommate, do intense college classes, and kind of really, the best way to say it is like the laboratory. They get a chance to see what it's like to be a college student in real time before they get to college. So we have 2 components. For our underclassmen, they'll do I call it reverse summer school. So they'll do like a day camp. So instead of taking a class you didn't do well in, we prepare our students for the class they're going to take the following year. So whatever math course, whatever English course they're going to take, they'll have a crash course that summer for the first 3 weeks and some of the concepts they're going to see before they go back to school. So first 3 weeks that happens. They also do some electives. Starting week 4, they'll move into the dorm, live in the campus, do some college tours, really get the real college experience, like real time. And then my second component is we have a bridge component. So my recent high school graduates, they'll have a chance to come live on campus for 5 weeks. So they'll live in the dorm, take a class for college credit, do an internship, and pretty much that's the time we're with them every day to kind of figure out, okay, have we dotted all the I's, crossed all the T's? Is everything taken care of before you go off to college in the fall? So really, there's a chance to kind of make sure, okay, is your housing deposit paid? Do you have a ride to campus in the fall? But just kind of reassuring them, they've crossed the finish line in terms of graduation. But we've seen the research say so many students, even after graduation, even having a college plan, don't show up on college in the fall because of that 2-month period between graduation and showing up for the first semester. So that's what a bridge is for in a nutshell.
Gotcha.
And then the last week we go on the road, do a college cultural enrichment tour. So we'll go somewhere out of state to see some out of state colleges, do some cultural experiences, and really just give them an opportunity that a lot of our students probably wouldn't have traditionally in a high school space.
Gotcha. Yeah. So there was so much good stuff there, right? I think one of the things that we oftentimes hear from outreach here is they're just ready to get out of South Carolina, right? And all they know is get out of South Carolina, but they don't know how they're going to pay for it. They don't know how they're going to get to campus. Right. They don't know if they can be successful once they get there because their support system may look a little different than what they're used to. So I think all of those pieces and components that you hit on is so impactful for a student who is considering going to college, because yes, you can get in, but can you afford it? Once you get there, can you be successful? Do you know where your resources are? So I like that you all have an opportunity to get the students out in the state of South Carolina as well as out of state to kind of see what's out there and available to them. So you mentioned the 4 schools that you all serve, and you serve them year round with the different touch points, the Saturday classes, and then over the summer they have an opportunity to stay on campus. Now there's a little birdie, aka my sister from high school. She would get paid to do. she would have an opportunity to get a little check.
Yes.
So tell me more.
So we also one incentive of being a part of the Bound program, we're able to provide our students a stipend. So they're able to get a stipend during the academic year as well as summer, and any work study participant is able to get a small stipend as incentive for
small stipend.
Small stipend. a little something.
A little something.
Need some gas money.
Awesome. I like that. And I think that also kind of helps them figure out financial literacy, budgeting. Do you have a checking or a savings account? What are you going to do with that money as you obtain it? Are you going to save it? Things like that. So just in case you're looking at some TRIO programs, Upward Bound has some incentives that some students may want to consider. Now, knowing that you serve 4 schools, I'm assuming you have a team of individuals that you work with. Is there a cap on how many students you can serve, either in those individual schools or just in your program in general?
Great question. So Upward Bound, with our Upward Bound program specifically, our target number is 113. So we service 113 students every year between the 4 schools.
Okay.
We can go over. The feds require us to serve at least 90% of our population, but our goal is to serve as many students as we can. So the only hiccup of that, we're not getting additional funding for any additional students you serve. So we make it work. We take the students we have, we spread our funds out, and that covers all the students, participants, all their travel, staff, salaries, instructional staff. So everything comes out of that budget to service our students.
And so you're mentioning staff. Do you want to take a moment and shout out your staff?
Yes. So Upward Bound, full-time staff with very small but mighty staff. So it's myself, the director of Upward Bound program, my college advisor, Ms. Kayla Diggs, and then our academic coordinator, Ms. Jasmine Williamson, and we have a program assistant, Ms. Asha Hagray. Instructors, additional staff. As you said, servicing 113 students, it becomes hard with a very small staff. So we lean heavily on our tutors, instructors, many part-time staff to make Upward Bound work, both during academic and during summer, because summer is all encompassing. We have housing and residential pieces where students need to be supervised overnight. So 24-hour supervision of high school students becomes very difficult with a very small staff. So we lean on other students at the University of South Carolina, as well as further universities as well. One big thing I do that kind of lends to my servicing and my results for my students. Summer is a good time for me to lean on my former students. So being able to hire my former students, bring them back, kind of talk about their shared experience, and really them getting to see the other side of what Upward Bound looks like now as a staff person versus as a student participant. But it also gives me a chance to kind of touch base with those former students. So even though I can't spend money on them per se, now that they graduated, I'm still able to, now you're a staff member, so I'm able to pay you a stipend or a salary being a staff member. But I'm also able to get those touch points now that you left me to ensure our back end results are being made. Okay, how are your classes going? How was last semester? What is your schedule like next year? What challenges are you having? Do you need a transfer? And as we restart the conversation over again. So just being very strategic in terms of staffing with our students, what our goals and objectives are, and how we make the big picture work.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I was going to ask you for the additional staff that comes in on Saturdays and on in the summertime, if your previous students participated. So I think that's a beautiful story of wraparound services in a very creative and innovative way that allows you to continue to check on those students even after they have left your program. So if you could think of like one story, your favorite success student, you don't have to call out the name or anything like that. I'm sure you have many, but can you think back over the many years that you've been with USC Upward Bound of a success story that you would like to share today?
Wow, trying to think of one is probably difficult. I think anybody who works in TRIO, Upward Bound specifically, and I would say for me, it's a few touch points. Like when I first got there, it felt like family almost instantly. So there was no kind of transition from where I was to where being Upward Bound. I was brought into the fold very quickly. But I would say it takes a few years to kind of get your feet wet, get acclimated, to figure out what you're doing, why you're doing, to make it make sense. So in the early years, it still felt kind of like work. Like this is what I do. It's rewarding. I'm passionate about it, but it's still my job. I would say maybe year 3, year 4, you start hearing some of the stories impacted about you specifically.
Gotcha.
It kind of makes it touch home a little bit more. And I think being an educator just by trade in general, always working in the classroom in some capacity, you hear those stories. So you see students, and I say all the time, like there's certain students I've had that I know they would have been fine whether they met me or not.
Right.
Sometimes seeing a student who is polished, who comes to you a certain way, who shows up a certain way, whose circumstances doesn't necessarily show up when they walk into the room per se. Seeing that student say, well, till I got Upward Bound, I never thought about going to college. Like it wasn't even an option.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself at that moment, like this, as polished as this child is, as like clearly college material.
Right.
even that kid said, I never considered this until I walked into this program.
Right.
That's when I kind of transitioned my thought points in terms of even who's in the room, because you could think very clearly, like people identify, oh, this is a college kid, this is whatever, all these labels.
Yep.
But even some of the kids, like we may label like those kids fine.
Mm-hmm.
They have all these hidden barriers that will never manifest themselves in your presence unless you just happen to know.
Yeah.
So I think that's the beauty of it about you get to know their families, you get to know their circumstances, and they open up to you. That they'll share with you, they'll share things. You're like, man, this is like it's heavy at times, but I think it's rewarding on the back end because you see that growth, you see where they come from, where they're going, and you also see the impact on not only them, but you see the impact on their families, their communities, and everybody in their immediate circle. So I think that's the beauty of Abound, I would say.
No, I never really thought about how the impact of a student can have a ripple effect into the family and the community. And I think that's extremely beautiful. If there was one thing that you could say that you would want someone to remember from this interview as we wrap up, what's one thing either you would want them to remember about the college access process or about Upward Bound, about TRIO? Like, what's one piece of advice or something you would want someone to remember?
The big thing, I think I've always been an advocate for education specifically. I would say with Upward Bound and TRIO specifically, I think I found my life's work, I would say.
Okay.
I didn't necessarily see myself in a place where when I get there, get comfortable and figure out, okay, I knew I wanted to be an educator, but this is what I was designed, what I was made to do. So I would say the biggest thing I've always said, being an advocate. We hear all the time, like, college ain't for everybody. I've heard that from day one, and I bought into it to a degree. But at the same time, college may not be for everyone, but it should be an option for everyone. Yeah. So the biggest thing I push as an advocate for college access and the ability, like, give our babies options. Yeah. There's nothing they can't do if you open their horizons to them, give them some resources, give them an opportunity, and really invest some time in some of our students. So that's the biggest thing I would see. When I look at my students, I look at the data. I often ask myself, how am I pulling this data from an area that says one thing?
Right.
I bring them to a space, and really just invest some time and some thought and some care into a population, and see results that are performing better than general population.
Right.
So with that being said, if we just take the time, not even just TRIO per se, spend a little more time, more thought, and care into our products, we will reap a better result. So I think that's our biggest thing, biggest takeaway.
That's absolutely beautiful. So what's one piece of advice that you would give someone who's watching this that's not in the USC, that's not in a TRIO program, that can't be in Upward Bound for Richland County, because you all serve Richland County, but they're college bound. Right. They're probably in their senior year, junior year, maybe something that you would have liked someone to have told you before you went to Benedict.
Right. I would say the biggest thing, if you're not in a TRIO program or you're not necessarily a TRIO student right now, do your research, look at what resources are available out there. If you're a college-bound student, you're going to college, research the TRIO programs at the university that you're looking at going into. Yeah. One of the biggest things I do for my students who are currently in my program, because I know how rewarding, how impactful the programs are, not only mine, but other programs across the country.
Right.
How can I transition my students from my care into another TRIO's program of care?
Absolutely.
Who's going to look at these students the same way I do. So I tell students all the time, students, parents, and families, do your research, see what resources are available. If not a TRIO program, maybe a TRIO-like program. How can you put yourself out there to find, how do you create a big space, make it small and feel comfortable and for you? So the biggest thing is do your research, look for the resources and see what's available to you, because there's more available than you think.
There's more available than you think. I like that. I want to end on that. So a couple of things have happened since our last podcast. The FAFSA is out. It's open. So if you are a college-bound student considering college, adult or high school student, please complete your FAFSA. If you need support or resources with that, please reach out to your school counselors, and they know financial aid offices that can assist you with completing your FAFSA. There are events across the state of South Carolina. I'm going to speak for our state. that you can attend and get assistance with completing your FAFSA as well. So college-bound students, please complete your FAFSA. Also consider there are different lanes, 2-year versus 4-year. Maybe you need to look at a certification program, okay? We have scholarship links on our website. Do you all have any resources on your website that you would like to shout out?
Go to our website, www.sc.edu/trio. You can find all our programs there. Again, if any resources you may need in terms of FAFSA completion, we can assist in that as well.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, Dawayne, thank you so much for coming down the street and around the corner and down the street to be with us this morning. I look forward to interviewing your colleagues soon and one day. But until then, thank y'all so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.